This is Adventures in Finalland, where we take a look at record releases of the past, the present, and maybe even the future. I'm your host, Randy, and the 2010s has been a strange decade for music, hasn't it? This decade has seen a revolution for almost every form of media. Television has been reaching new heights, film has been creating new ways to wow us, even video games and animation are pushing limits. But music is stagnating more in the 2010s than any other form of media. The last time there was a unified movement of music was maybe in the 2000s with the emo fad. But even that felt small compared to the grunge and new wave movement before it. However, in 2011, there was a hip-hop group that came along that proved that they could probably become the voice of the generation. And that's what led up to the 2012 release of The Money Store by Death Grips. Death Grips are a hip-hop group/band from Sacramento, California. They combine elements of noise, EDM, glitch music, and samples to create hyper-aggressive hip-hop. Their music is full of tiny little details that blow listeners away with repeated listens. They're also known for the enigmatic, harsh vocals of MC Ride. They formed in 2010 when three friends, Zach Hill, Andy Morin, and Stefan Burnett got together to create something entirely new. Hip-hop was in an odd place in 2010. Though Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy had broken new ground for the genre, hip-hop was dominated by glam and club rap. Sure, several people were in it for the arts, but very few artists were being considered game changers. And Death Grips wanted to be one of those game changers. So they needed a plan. How are they gonna pull this off? First, they would have to take modern technology and use it at their disposal. They experimented with samples that they would take from their daily lives, as well as sounds and words taken from various sources of pop culture. In addition, they utilized elements of aggressive EDM music as well as glitch music to give the songs more character. The real spice, though? The vocals of Stefan Burnett, whose stage name changed to MC Ride. Ride's rapping is best described as the ravings of a mad, really intelligent homeless man. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. So the band started their own website and produced their own mixtape called Ex-Military, which was released in 2011 for free. As 2011 pushed onwards, Ex-Military generated so much hype that it was traded all over the internet. Many websites called it one of the year's best, even though it wasn't commercially released at the time. People praised it for its dark atmosphere and haunting aggression, showing the paranoia of the 2010s. So when 2012 came around and the band announced that they were releasing even more music, you can imagine how excited fans were. The band announced 2 full-length albums to be released by the year's end. On top of that, the band found themselves signed to Epic Records, who were excited by the hype. The first 2 of these albums, The Money Store, was announced in February with an April release date. Now I remember when this thing was released, and it was all over the place. Anthony Fantano gave it his first 10 out of 10 rating, Mew creamed their shorts over it, and publications were calling it a revolutionary album. These are words that hadn't been used for a brand new release since Radiohead's Kid A 12 years before. Now, there's a couple of things I want you to keep in mind for this review. First off, unlike previous episodes, this one isn't going to go too deep into lyrical analysis. Though Ex-Military was praised for its lyrical depth, Ride was less ambitious with the lyrics here. All you really need to know is that MC Ride gets violent impulses, is heavily involved in crime, and gets haunted by paranoia, addiction, and mental instability. Secondly, this album is loaded with clever samples and musical elements. Like the episode on Converge's Jane Doe, if we were to cover every single one of them, this episode would be far too long. This review is meant to be a casual analysis, not a comprehensive look at every single note. The album's artwork is interesting. Here we have 2 women who appear to be in the middle of some sort of BDSM session. The character on the left is topless, carrying a grocery bag with the words Death Grips carved in on her chest. She is wearing some sort of gimp mask with dog ears. My guess is that there's some sort of pet play going on here given the leash. On the other side of the leash is another female character, who is likely the dom, wearing scraggly dirty clothes and smoking a cigarette. The image was designed by Sua Yu, and it perfectly depicts how dirty and nasty this album is going to get. So how does this album hold up 5 years after its release? Let's take a listen and find out. The album opens with Get Got. The intro starts seemingly calm, with Ride stuttering lyrics.
Get, got, blood rush to my head, they hot lock popping off the fucking block, now clocking wristlet, watch been top off.
As you just heard, the intro is nothing but an illusion. The song is hyper in nature, given that it's about a police getaway. The track gives you a feeling of unease.
Lying, don't wait for me, if I care about anything, anywhere, losing myself, I get the stares that I'm looking at, wasn't there,
and very sudden changes in dynamics of the beats.
Get, got, blood rush to my head, they hot lock popping off the fucking block, now clocking wristlet, watch been top off, fly inside that watch and big shots, snip shots, hit, but it wasn't me quick stop. So many ways to skin the frame, remember when first I sliced it.
The Fever AA features a blaring siren, giving you an image of the inside of Ride's head. The siren transforms into an awesome riff that drives the song forward. Ride's panicked yelling and the marching African beats make you feel like you're heading off into battle. Lost Boys has a choppy rhythm focused entirely on triplets. Ride's delivery is impressive, as most rappers would probably have been thrown off by the rhythm. The song features an intense EDM drop for the hook, with Ride shouting,
"It's such a long way, yeah! It's such a long way, yeah!"
Allegedly, they sampled an older song of theirs on here, almost as if to mock themselves. Blackjack features a rhythm that resembles a heartbeat, reminding you that you're alive. Ride's vocals are heavily sampled and altered here. Tons of reversing, echo, reverb, and hyper editing to give the listener an image of what it's like to be inside the man's unstable mind, as the character becomes addicted to power after a lucky game of blackjack. Hustle Bones is one of my favorite tracks.
Give a fuck what you heard, yeah, fuck what you heard, for this real shit, kick your whole clip till it come. What? But you don't hear me though.
The heavy beat and the stuttering sample of Ride's own voice and the backing vocalist create an absolutely awesome atmosphere.
Hustle Bones coming out my mouth. Hustle Bones coming out my. Hustle Bones coming out my mouth. Hustle Bones coming out my. Coming out my mouth. Hustle.
The next track is one of my favorite songs, not only in the hip-hop genre, but of all time. I've Seen Footage is a musical embodiment of paranoia.
Get it. These, not wasting, swallow my beats. I stay.
Ride sings of seeing footage of disturbing it, such as decapitations, and how it does nothing to calm him.
I see footage, I stay noited, I see footage, I see footage, I stay noited, I see footage, I see footage.
The term to stay noited is his constant reminder to stay aware of his surroundings, as if to use his paranoia as a tool.
Everybody's knowing where you think you're going and going nowhere. Saddle up, handle that, feel that part.
Maybe it's not best to apply this in real life, but it works for Ride's character. The sample of Salt and Peppa's Push It is hilarious. It's easily the best song on the album. Double Helix closes side 1 with not one, but 2 Beatles-related samples. The lyrics talk about how a Death Grip song is constructed, like a complex DNA code, which fits perfectly well with the song's title.
riding chicken, skeletal system bombing, unidentified genre abductor, hit it from the back. Formula fucked up, hit an executor, cookie cutter, can't wait to pull that tricky shotgunner.
Perhaps the Beatles samples were thrown in there as some sort of an ego stroke for the band, as if to say they were starting their own musical revolution just like the Beatles did.
See, really wanna know, double, see, really wanna know, double, see, really wanna know how freaking, double, Felix.
System Blower opens side 2. The marching band drumming is like a ticking time bomb. As the song continues, the more unstable it becomes. Ride uses metaphors of hacking a computer system to describe how he's going to poison your mind.
But now when I recall black creeping, full tilt swerving through your bleeding, system burning to his knees and begging for mercy while I'm leaning hard to the left and the clock in the grip to the left pocket to the head knock rhythm. System blower, system blower.
The song has a long outro, which sounds like a computer system crashing. The cage has a haunting, echoing synth riff.
I say kill it like you used to. Hey, kill it,
The creeping rhythm makes it catchy and horrifying.
Lucky staring at you, know I'll be so quick to flash. Terrified by the way a basilisk come out and skin so fast. Not the first won't be the last.
The synth lines goes from creeping to swooping in the middle, a jarring change in texture.
Step to me with that bullshit like I don't know what you're doing. Talking fast, looking shady. You can't fake me, keep it moving.
Then both the creeping and sweeping synth lines are mutated together, which climaxes the song perfectly.
The big bass, this weekend, when all these out to sleep track, and the smoke clear, who remake, this right here, what we claim, I know where, look kick there, don't go there, this the real thing.
Punk Wade sounds like a noisy mess to a new listener. I was originally going to call this the weak track on the album, but the more I listened to it, the more it became clear that this song was actually a carefully crafted mess. It uses sped up samples and overwhelming noise to give repeated listeners a reward. I grew to love the damn thing.
Hot shit, dumb shit, okay motherfucker, let's do this. So don't praise her and maintain looseness. Coming through again and again, don't do it. One man's work, so I do it. Wild.
Fuck That has a broken, glitchy rhythm. Ride's angry flow creates an intense energy.
Third rip over one non-breaker. Slip through, cut creator. Hung from the man, hanging myself on failure. Trans-stop, period, epic, track.
It's a deadly combo that makes you feel like hanging your head down and swaying it from side to side.
Fuck that, no, fuck that. Help me with that weak shit. This flat, across the street and back. Hood crap, I don't know where I'll be at.
Bitch Please has an oriental feel to it.
Bitch, please, you must be smoking rock, real shit. For my people and it just don't fuck.
Ride plays with a sample off of Ex-Military, once again mocking the band's previous sound. The self-awareness makes this song fun and rewarding. Hacker closes the album on its second best track. It repeats the words, almost as if the song is threatening you. Ride haunts you by saying, and if there's one human being that I want to be threatening me, it's Ride. At least if Ride were to be brutally murdering you, you know you'd be having fun while he was doing it. They are basically affirming their position in the world, showing that their influence is now being felt everywhere. The Money Store is one of my favorite hip-hop albums. It's highly complex, yet incredibly easy to listen to for those that aren't looking to think too hard. Just like some of the best albums of all time, it provides a balance. Make no mistake, as the years go by, you're gonna be seeing this looked at as one of the best of the decade. It took the overt seriousness of ex-military and successfully flipped it on its head. Any band that can do that, provide a musical puzzle for new and This is Adventures in Finalland, where we take a look at record releases of the past, the present, and maybe even the future. I'm your host, Randy, and the 2010s has been a strange decade for music, hasn't it? This decade has seen a revolution for almost every form of media. Television has been reaching new heights, film has been creating new ways to wow us, even video games and animation are pushing limits. But music is stagnating more in the 2010s than any other form of media. The last time there was a unified movement of music was maybe in the 2000s with the emo fad. But even that felt small compared to the grunge and new wave movement before it. However, in 2011, there was a hip-hop group that came along that proved that they could probably become the voice of the generation. And that's what led up to the 2012 release of The Money Store by Death Grips. Death Grips are a hip-hop group/band from Sacramento, California. They combine elements of noise, EDM, glitch music, and samples to create hyper-aggressive hip-hop. Their music is full of tiny little